Yo, what's going on, guys? Flop here, and I'm back now with a Dragonflight Restoration Druid guide. I'm gonna try to make this one a little bit, or definitely not as long as the last one that I did, but I'm still gonna give you a couple real game examples and be as specific as I can, and just try to give you some tools to help you succeed as a Restoration Druid in Dragonflight. We're gonna go over talents, we're gonna go over macros, gearing, rotation, positioning, overall strategy, and just like some general tips. So yeah, let's just jump straight into it. So first of all, we're gonna go over talents. This here is kind of my main build right now. It's pretty rare that I run anything other than this. So I guess we'll start with the restoration side of the tree because this pretty much never changes in my opinion. So you've got Life Bloom, Nature Swiftness, Ysera's Gift, Grove Tending, which is nice just to give you another hot for your mastery, which is extremely important, and we're going to come back to that. Omen of Clarity, Flash of Clarity. So the first important talent here is this one over here, is Nourish and Wild Synthesis. This recently came out, and I'm actually glad that I waited to do the Druid guide until this talent came out, because it is somewhat important, and I've heard a lot of debate about it. Some people think it's not so good. Some people think it's really good. Most people that I talk to seem to not think it's very good. It is my personal opinion that this talent is a must play for Druids, especially once you get above 13% mastery or so. You really start to get a lot of value out of Nourish because of the fact that it receives 300% bonus from your mastery, and this talent here also makes it get a further bonus from your mastery. So the way that I think about this talent is kind of as an extra nature swiftness. This is not like a big rotational change to your game. You're not gonna specking into this doesn't mean you're gonna be sitting there spamming Nourish. I guess maybe if you're playing something like LSD or MLD, double caster, sitting back, you could end up spamming Nourish a little bit more. But for the most part, that's not what this talent means. For me, it is a recovery mechanic. With damage as high as it is, if a rogue has death mark up on somebody and you don't have Iron Bark, having a Nourish that can heal for upwards of 200k with enough mastery is a really, really nice tool. You get stacks of Wild Synthesis, the talent below this, from your clear casting regrowths that you can cast during tree form, even when you're not in tree form. You get a stack from Nature Swiftness, you get a stack from Overgrowth. So you kind of build these stacks throughout the game naturally, just naturally casting regrowth. And you end up sitting there with a 3 stack that allows you to kind of quickly recover your teammate in a weird situation. So for that reason, I think that Nourish is a really, really good ability. You can also choose to play Improved Regrowth and Dream State, which is not bad. Little extra crit chance on your regrowth and some CDR on your trank. But to me, I think that at least having the availability of the tool of Nourish as a recovery mechanic is extremely important. So yeah, Efflorescence is a must go, Soul must go, Overgrowth must go. Pretty much everything here is a must go. But I will go over this talent here. Life Bloom counts for 3 stacks of Mastery Harmony. I'm sure you're already aware of this, but this is kind of your entire class. This is kind of the entire way that you heal. This talent right here makes Life Bloom count for 3 stacks of mastery. So I think I have around 11% mastery on my Druid on live. So that means that Life Bloom, when I have it up, they're receiving 33% increased healing. That is absurd. That is crazy. This is kind of the defining thing for Druid. It's the reason that if you look at literally any details breakdown of mine, Life Bloom is always going to be up there. Life Bloom and Life Bloom Bloom are always going to be up there in like the top 3 or so. Yeah, so that's super important. Adaptive Swarm. I play Tree Form and Improved Tree Form every game. In the beginning, I was trying out Natural Wisdom and Invigorate, but after playing in tournaments, after playing on ladder, I am 100% certain that, especially with this Nourish build, Tree Form and Improved Tree Form is the way to go every single game. The reason why it's the way to go every single game, to me, not only is it just better healing, and it's a pretty low cooldown because of the CDR that you get whenever your Life Blooms crit from this. You having 2 Life Blooms out means that they're constantly, critting, so you're just getting that, or it's actually when they bloom, not when they critically strike. It's when the regrowth critically strikes. But that essentially just means that you're getting that cooldown back on that tree form much faster with 2 Life Blooms out. And the reason why I think it's so good is because the game and the meta right now is so momentum based. Tree form lasts 30 seconds. It increases your healing done by 15%. It makes regrowth instant cast. It makes rejuvenation heal for more. And with those instant cast regrowths, you get these, because of this talent here, you get automatic clear casting every 5 seconds. So you're getting free regrowths, instant cast every 5 seconds. So you're just stacking up Wild Synthesis like crazy. So tree form is a must go. Tree form in this nourish build I think is extremely important because it kind of shifts the momentum in your team's favor. When you have tree form up for 30 seconds and you're just keeping everybody topped, your team is free to do damage. They're free to get aggressive, to push up on the enemy team, and that is huge. That is huge. There are not a lot of healing cooldowns in the game right now that actually allow that. I think tree form is one of the most powerful healing cooldowns in the game, and I don't really think there's any reason not to play it. So yeah, I think we went over this. You always play Verdant Infusion every game. Everything else, I don't think you would ever change anything in this tree, no matter what the matchup is. I really don't. I think that this is the best build for Druid objectively. Maybe you could drop Nourish if you feel like you'd like this better, but I'm pretty sure this is the way to go every game. So yeah, let's jump over into the Druid side. Rake Stun every time. I have seen a few Druids in tournaments not playing Rake Stun, and I guess they're just trying to get that extra Heart of the Wild or get some tankier talents or something like that. But I really think you should play Rake Stun every game. I don't see it is so valuable offensively and defensively, especially considering the fact that you can always be a Night Elf now. I would play Rake every single game. Frenzied Regen, these talents are gonna make you a little bit tankier. That's really good. Getting Dispel, Wild Growth, sure. This is all just guaranteed. Take Cyclone, not just one talent point. It's good. Some games you don't even cast it, which I'll get into later. But yeah, this is all just pretty obvious. Wild Charge every time. Going down this way to get some tankier talents, 6% reduced damage taken, the Absorb for skin. And then this is where it gets interesting. So Lycera's Teachings, this is huge. This gives you haste in normal form, versatility in bear form. Those are really the two. It does give you mastery in Moonkin form, but I believe it is bugged. It doesn't actually give you as much mastery as it says it's going to. Maybe they fixed that. But this is huge. This is huge. Getting 6% haste is extremely important because of how important versatility and mastery are as a Druid now. And I'll get into the gearing part of this later. But this talent is going to help you a ton with dropping some of that haste on your gear and picking up some extra verse mastery pieces without getting too low of haste, because playing really low haste Druid does not feel very good. I always take Renewal pretty much every game. There's some 2s matchups where I'll drop Renewal and pick up Maim up here. But Renewal is just a nice defensive cooldown to have. You can't cast it while silenced, which can be detrimental, but I think it's just good to go. Taking Nature's Vigil here, it's just like pressing this when the enemy team is doing a lot of damage, can be really nice. Just again to go back to that point about momentum, Nature's Vigil is another aspect of that. When you have a lot of healing and the enemy team is doing a lot of damage, you press Nature's Vigil, you're doing a lot of healing, you're adding damage, and you're topping your team off so your team is able to get aggressive. Kind of shifting, I think about it in terms of a wave, like I think a lot of games in Dragonflight are coming down to this kind of style. It's very wavy. It's like it's in our favor and then it's in their favor and then it's in our favor and then it's in their favor. And it all just depends on, how your cooldowns are going. Dragonflight's a very damage centered expansion. It's not really about these sub rogue fire mage, holy priest, and shadowlands, chastise, kidney, DB, killing a setup, which I am actually very grateful for. I do not think that promotes a very skillful level of play. I think that there is much more intricacy to play in these types of situations, even though there is plenty to improve on in the game right now. There are a lot of issues, but just to rewind, Nature's Vigil, tree form, momentum, all those concepts. Taking Protector of the Pack is really good. I have a weak aura that tracks it right here. This turns purple. It's like changes color and it turns purple when it's ready to go. And that just tells me, it's just a little square on my screen that tells me when my Protector of the Pack is stacked all the way up, which is really nice. And that'll be in my Discord, or you can just ask for it in my Twitch chat when I'm live. Vortex every game, pretty much. Mass Entanglement can be good versus Death Knights, but Death Knights are kind of getting out of the meta a little bit. There may be some matchups where you can play Mass Entanglement into Beast Mastery Hunters or just double melee. Mass Entanglement's good. I mean, there's different matchups where Mass Entanglement and Ursul's Vortex are good, but it's not very cookie cutter. I mean, they're both very good talents, and it just depends on what's going on in the game. Mass Entanglement is best used in paired with the Deep Roots Honor talent. Of course, that's been a thing for a while. But yeah, I think that's everything on the Druid side. Actually, you know what? I did want to mention, it sometimes really bugs me. I really want to go Tireless Pursuit, which I just love. Tireless Pursuit has always felt so good to me, and I really do think that on ladder, if you're not playing in a tournament, I think on ladder, Tireless Pursuit is probably better. in a lot of situations. Having that extra mobility is so huge. Being able to move around the map quickly in bear form, in normal form, in any form that you want is going to really, really, really help you with positioning, offensively, defensively. So yeah, I think you could drop Nature's Vigil, Renewal, and Protector of the Pack for Tyler's Pursuit, which I think in a lot of matchups is probably actually worth it. But for tournament play and if you're just trying to play it safe, I think that adding this little bit of extra damage and having this extra amount of survivability is probably the way to go. Just playing it safe with these talents. But yeah, this is kind of my build. You know, I really don't change it too much. In 2v2, maybe I'll pick up Maim or something, but you don't really want to drop too much. You don't really ever go Skull Bash. I don't really see any. I have not been in any matchups where I felt like, oh, I needed Skull Bash there. It puts you into a bad position, and it can be awkward to use because it's on global. And it's just, yeah, not the best. Nothing on the balance tree side is really that great. Could see going Boomkin form versus Death Knights. Actually, in one of the last AWC, the last time that we fought Team Liquid, Cedu's team, I did play Moonkin form versus their DK Evoker Arsham. Going Moonkin form so that when the Death Knight grips me in to do the double blind, big Evoker one-shot go, I can just press Wild Charge with Moonkin form up as soon as he grips, and it will disengage me away from the grip. But that's a super, super niche situation. I don't really know. I don't even play this versus mages or anything. So yeah, I don't really think, yeah. So I think that's everything for the talents. Quickly, we can go over honor talents. Focus Growth, Keeper of the Grove, every single game, no matter what. You never drop these two talents, Focus Growth and Keeper of the Grove. So basically, that makes it really easy. You only have one slot where you can choose to change things up. So here, Reactive Resin is probably your go-to in most situations. It's just like a little bit of extra healing, which is nice versus melee. Like I said in the Shadowlands Druid guide, a lot of people have questions about, you know, what talents do I play as a Druid versus a caster. I feel like I only have talents for fighting, you know, melee, which is a valid concern. But you have plenty of other talents. You can play Disentanglement for the Freedom Shroom if you're playing with a melee who needs to catch up to somebody like a double caster. You can play Precognition and try to juke kicks with Cyclone or Regrowth just to get that extra haste is super, super nice. And they recently did buff Precog to 5 seconds of CC immunity, which is good. You can play Malord Swiftness even. I don't even know if this works in Arena. I think it might be bugged right now. I don't think it does give you the extra 20%. Anyways, you can play Master Shapeshifter, and just Master Shapeshifter is actually pretty bad. You never really play Master Shapeshifter. You never really play Early Spring. You never really play Entangling Bark. Thorns is very good. Thorns is very good versus double melee, especially. High Winds is nice. You can play High Winds versus double caster if you're ever casting Cyclones. But I would say, you know, this third honor talent here is pretty insignificant. It does not matter that much. This is not going to really change the course of the game unless some very specific situations like being Thorns into a double melee as Mage Lock Druid, or being Deep Roots Mass Entanglement into a DK team with like a squishy target on your team. There's a couple important ones like that. But for the most part, really doesn't matter too much. Go with Reactive Resin, go with Thorns, play Deep Roots Mass, play High Winds. You know, not gonna be the end of the world no matter what. Yeah, so that is the talents for Druid. That is honor talents. That is resto talents, and that's Druid talents. Cool. So really quickly, I have macros written down, and I get questions all the time in my stream. It's like, yo, what are all these macros you use? What's your meld macro? What's your drink macro? What's your, you know, rake stun macro? I don't really use many macros, guys. I have a focus macro for wild charge. I have a focus macro for rake and bash. And I only use focus. I actually don't use target rake or target bash. And I don't have a meld macro. My meld rake and my meld prowl and rake are all on separate binds. Shift Q Z1 is how I have it set up. Just hit that 3 times for a quick little meld stun. Don't really have any macros, but I do want to clarify the one must-have macro for a Druid in Dragonflight is a cancel form macro, and that goes for Druid in every expansion. You need to have a cancel form macro if you are going to play Druid at all in any expansion. I was actually talking to a player recently trying to pick up Druid, and a tournament player, and he was playing Druid without a cancel form macro, and I was like, bro, get that cancel form. And you know, he said once he got it, it felt way smoother. So cancel form right here, / cancel form, that's all you need. This basically makes it so that you can go bear form and cancel instantly. You know, if I don't use the cancel form macro and I just start sitting here mashing bear form, it takes a whole global for me to be able to come out of bear form. But using the cancel form, bear instantly out. So this is going to allow you to shift out of slows, just move around the map a lot easier. It's going to allow you to be in bear form, come out and put up the right hot. so you don't have to like rebind all of your hots in bear form. It just is going to make your gameplay a lot smoother to have a cancel form macro. It is pretty much the only must-have macro for a druid. At cursor vortex is big. This macro here makes it easy to swap between vortex and mass entanglement. Whenever I swap those two talents, it just copies that over to it just instantly changes. I don't have to do much. I have a mouse over for root and clone for pets and stuff like that. But yeah, man, there's just really not that many important macros for druid. Couple focus macros, cancel form macro. If you want to get help harm macros actually. So if you look here, if I target this guy, life bloom, regrowth are going to change to wrath and moonfire. This is very not the biggest deal, but it does save you space on your bars. If I'm targeting myself, I'm pressing 1, but if I'm targeting him, I'm pressing moonfire. But if I'm targeting him, if I'm targeting myself, I'm pressing life bloom. If I'm targeting him, I'm pressing moonfire. And this looks like this. Let me just find one real quick for you. Right here. So slash cast brackets harm, no space, offensive ability, semicolon, beneficial ability. And it's super easy to write, super easy to do. And it just makes that bind, when you're targeting an enemy, does something harmful. When you're targeting a teammate, does something beneficial. So yeah, help harm, cancel form. That's pretty much it. That's really all the important macros you need. Not a ton of super important macros for Druid at all. So now let's go over gearing. So for gearing for Rest Druid, so like I said before, mastery is the key. Mastery is your most important stat as a druid by far, and that goes back to that life bloom talent I was talking about before. So essentially in your gearing, you want to gear as much mastery as possible. I have mastery enchants. I have the plus 88 mastery. I'm not even going for the mastery plus haste or the mastery plus verse gems. Just as much mastery as I can possibly get my hands on. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you do want to have enough versatility to survive. The good thing is when you're in bear form, you get an extra 6% verse. So right now I have 31%. All these stats go up in arena a little bit. The gear scales up in arena from 408 to 424. So these stats are not 100% correct, but you can compare these to your stats outside of arena, and that will be an accurate comparison. I have 17.37% haste on live. That goes down to 15% when I equip my emblem, which is something that you do play into matchups where you can be a kill target. This is really good because it increases the healing of your renewal and increases the healing of your frenzied regeneration. So it's a very good defensive tool, but you do drop some haste. But playing Insignia is extremely important in matchups where you're not really a kill target. And this is more haste than I have on Tournament Realm. On Tournament Realm, I think I rock like 12% without 12% with emblem and 16% with Insignia. So I would say that that's kind of the minimum that you want to go for. But you just want to get just enough haste to feel okay, and then just stack as much mastery as you possibly can, and making sure that you have enough versatility that you're not like super squishy. So that's pretty much it. I mean, the 5% boots are really good. In some tournament games, I dropped the 5% boots to play this ring and the lariat neck. The lariat neck, which I do not have on live, is very good for Druid. I'm sure you guys know what that is. It's just a crafted necklace that you can put a powerful gem in, and it has like this thing that like procs that powerful gem, gives you primary stat and mastery, I believe. But yeah, so pretty simple. You just want to go as much mastery as possible. A lot of verse mastery gear. The verse mastery, this is haste verse. The PvE or the world PvP belt and bracers, I think, are BIS for Druid. I think they're called Drake Breakers. Those are both verse mastery bracers and belt. I just don't have them because I'm lazy and I just don't really care to go farm that stuff, even though it probably would be super easy. But yeah, you basically want to get as much mastery as you can, and just make sure that you're meeting that threshold of versatility defensively and haste in order to make yourself feel, not too squishy. One thing that I do want to mention is my weapon enchant, Earthen Writ. Earthen Writ is the mastery proc weapon enchant. This to me is much better than the int proc. Once you start getting, 13, 14, 15, 16% mastery, which is how much I have on Tournament Realm, that extra mastery proc makes your healing kind of ridiculous. It's kind of overpowered how good your healing is when you get that mastery proc and you have a bunch of hots on somebody, especially with that nourish. I think I've hit a 300k nourish on Tournament Realm with that mastery proc up. It's just huge healing. So I would recommend going Earthen Writ, enchant on your weapon. Of course, Reserve of Intellect on your chest. Temporal Spell Thread on your... I only have the rank 2 of Reserve. God. My gear on live is not very good. The int and percentage mana on your pants, Plane Runner's Breeze on your boots, Master Enchants here, Speed Enchant here, Speed Enchant here, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it for gearing. Get as much mastery as you can. meet that haste and versatility threshold. Pretty simple. So yeah, now let's go into rotation. So not that much changed rotation wise going from Shadowlands to Dragonflight. So I'm not going to go into every specific, but essentially the way that I think about the Druid rotation is that you have, and goes for other classes as well, but you have a set of tools, and how you use those tools is going to determine whether or not your teammates are safe or in trouble. So tool number one, let's just start with Adaptive Swarm. Adaptive Swarm increases your periodic healing effects by 20%, right? It also is a nice purge protection. They have to purge it 3 times for it to take off the 20% effect. So putting that up on one target is going to make that target a lot tankier. Tool number 2 is Cenarian Ward. This is just a really, really powerful healing over time effect. Cenarian Ward and Adaptive Swarm are most effective when extended with Verdant Embrace. Making those are your 2 second and third most powerful healing over time effects. I'll get to the most important one in a second. But extending those is going to be extremely important. And when you extend those, you do get that Soul of the Forest buff. This is your third tool. Soul of the Forest is going to greatly increase the healing of your next regrowth or rejuvenation. You never use it on wild growth ever, except maybe in some super niche situations, which I think I have done when you have Innervate up and everybody's kind of dying. It can be all right. But for the most part, you want to press Soul of the Forest when you have, or you want to use Soul of the Forest on regrowth or rejuvenation. You can use it with Nature's Swiftness to heal for, that was a 100k heal with no life loom up. That will instantly top somebody if used, together, Nature's Swiftness plus Soul of the Forest, because Nature's Swiftness also buffs the healing of your regrowth, so that modifier is extremely powerful in combination with your mastery. So you have that. You can also just use it on a rejuvenation, which makes the rejuvenation heal for quite a bit more. And I think, honestly, you can use it on a casted regrowth as well, just to top somebody off. The healing from the regrowth pot is actually pretty good. It's actually not bad. When you get a soul regrowth on somebody, it's actually a pretty decent healing over time effect. I think it's a little bit more comparatively than it used to be in Shadowlands. So using it on a regrowth is also not a big deal if you just need to top somebody off really quickly. But yeah, that's your third tool. Let's see, fourth tool, Ironbark. This is an extremely powerful cooldown actually in Dragonflight. Damage is a little bit slower. It's not quite like as big of numbers, and people don't die quite as quickly as they did in Shadowlands to a lot of different classes, say Ret Warrior, RMP, things like that. People still do die pretty quickly in some situations, but Ironbark increasing the healing of all of your hots by 20% is absolutely huge. So really with Ironbark, and again, this is a kind of a core concept of Druid that goes across multiple expansions, but you want to use Ironbark on somebody while they're still high HP, so that they're not going to, if you Ironbark somebody at 20%, it's not like a pain suppression. It's not a 40% damage reduction. There's no instant heal associated with it. So it's best used preemptively when somebody uses an offensive cooldown, say a Death Mark or Avenging Wrath, 2-minute Ret Wings, or just like all the Demo Lock pets are just hitting somebody and he has like the Nether Portal out or the Tyrant or something like that and he's in a stun. Or if an Elemental Shaman is about to, Primordial Wave and one-shot your teammate, getting that Ironbark up while they're above, let's say 50% health, 9 times out of 10 is gonna save them if you have other healing over time effects active. So that's a really important cooldown. We already talked about Nature's Swiftness. Nourish, another good one. It's just going to help you top somebody off in specific situations. Let's see how much this one heals for. Went too fast. It's right here on my combat log. That one healed for 90k. So 90k non-crit, that's like 30%, almost 30% of my health. That's huge. That's huge. I mean, that's like a very quick recovery mechanic that doesn't cost much mana and it's instant cast. So you've got that. So those are kind of like, and Tree Form again, this is another big cooldown. Tree Form and Tranquility actually. So let's go over Tree Form first. Tree Form, again, I've talked about it. How you use this tool. You don't actually have to use this on a specific person. It's a buff on yourself, so you can use this, during any like really high damage time for the enemy team. Whenever they pop their offensive cooldowns, getting that Tree Form active is going to be huge. Tranquility is best used most efficiently for yourself, to save yourself. That's the primary use of it because of Keeper of the Grove. The immunity that you get from Tranquility is going to be extremely important. Pairing that with your Trinket is really nice. Just like trying to use that to save yourself. You can also use it to avoid crowd control, as I went over in my Shadowlands guide, and you can also use it as a heal for your team. Tranquility does give you an extra stack of mastery because it's a healing over time effect on your teammate. So it's going to buff your healing by 11% if you have 11% mastery. But the heal of it is also pretty good too. Right now it's ticking on me for 47k, 44k, 47k, 46k. So you know, that was after I overgrowth. So with those hots up, it ticks for around 40k. I think every 1 second or so, 1.2, 1.3. So Tranquility is actually a pretty good heal as well. So you can use it. There have been times, and I'm actually going to show you a game in a minute where I use Tranquility to just to keep my teammate alive when you don't have Swiftman, you don't have Ironbark, you don't have Adapt Storm, you don't have NS, anything like that. So yeah. So those are your tools. So now I want to go over, in terms of rotation again. So I went over Adapt Storm and Cenarian Ward. Life Bloom is the core of all of your healing. Life Bloom is your class. If you don't have Life Bloom on your target, you're doing something wrong. Life Bloom is going to increase all of the healing by all of your other healing over time effects by at least 30% if you have 10% mastery, which is like the minimum that I would recommend. I would recommend much more than that. But the Life Bloom is going to be kind of your primary heal. It's going to be high up on your healing the entire game. Keeping up that 3 stack is going to be extremely helpful with focus growth. So prioritize Life Bloom over everything else. Your rotation, if somebody's low, is always Life Bloom first if they don't have it. And if they do have it, it's, you know, make sure they have Rejuve, Swift Bend, extra Swiftness, get that Adapt Storm, Snare, and Ward rolling. Just get as many healing over time effects as you can, but make sure that the Life Bloom is up first. Life Bloom is your most important ability. I just want to nail that through, you know, just like to death. Life Bloom, Life Bloom, Life Bloom, Life Bloom. That is literally your entire class. And one of the big things about it is that this talent here, you may Life Bloom 2 targets at once, but Life Bloom ceiling is reduced by 10%. The 10% part does not matter at all. Life Blooming 2 targets at once has a few different benefits. One of the benefits is this one here, photosynthesis. While Life Bloom is on yourself, your periodic heals heal 20% faster. While Life Bloom is on an ally, your periodic heals on them have a 4% chance to cause it to bloom. So the second part of that means whenever any of your other healing over time effects tick, besides Life Bloom, each of those ticks has a 4% chance to cause it to bloom. And because, you know, you have Cultivation, Grove Tending, 2 Rejuvenations, freaking, you know, Regrowth, all those other hots, you basically you're going to be getting blooms. Your Life Bloom is going to be blooming on that target throughout the entire game. So that's why when you look at your details, you're going to see Life Bloom is so high is because of that. And the first part of this, your Life Bloom is on yourself, your periodic heals heal 20% faster. So essentially what these two talents do in combination is they give you 2 options. And you pick either one of these options depending on what the enemy team is doing. You're reacting to the target choice of the enemy team. If the enemy team is attacking your 2 teammates, you can put Life Blooms up on each of them, a couple rejuves, and they're both going to be getting those blooms. So that's one option. Or if the enemy team is targeting you, you can have a Life Bloom on yourself and on one of your teammates, which is nice. Or I guess there's 3 options. If the enemy team is targeting one of your teammates and ignoring the other one, if you're playing Rogue Mage Druid and you're fighting RMP, right? If it's RMD versus RMP, and the RMP is just sitting on the pillar trying to PvE the rogue, and they're only attacking your rogue, you can have full hots up on your rogue and keep 1 Life Bloom on yourself, making all of those hots on your rogue tick 20% faster, which is really, really, really big. And that's something that I definitely, you will see me do if you watch my stream. If the enemy team is targeting just one person in particular, I will keep all my hots up on them and keep 1 bloom on myself, just to make sure that I am, you know, healing them as much as I can. So on that vein, I do want to make a quick point rotationally for Druid. So the way that this works, it may be hard for me to explain this. So the way that this works, undergrowth. So the way that your blooms swap around is very important. In combination with budding leaves. We'll go over this talent here. Healing is increased by 6% each time it heals up to 90%. So what this talent does is it means the longer your Life Bloom is up, once it heals, you know, I guess that's like almost 10 times or a little bit over 10 times, then it's at its maximum capability of bonus healing. So what that means is that if your Life Bloom drops on somebody, if it gets purged, or if you swap your Life Bloom to somebody else and drop it on them, they're going to lose this extra healing from Life Bloom, which is pretty huge. So when you're playing these double Life Bloom talents, essentially Undergrowth is always going to follow the last Life Bloom that you did. The last Life Bloom that you did is very important. So let's say if I'm in a group of 2 people, and if I Life Bloom this guy, so let's say we got this guy and we got this guy. All right, this guy and this guy. So this is Chun-Li and this is Cubsy, right? If I Life Bloom Chun-Li and then Life Bloom Cubsy. I have 2 Life Blooms out, right? If then I cast Life Bloom on myself, it's going to take off the Life Bloom on Chun-Li. It's going to take off the first one that I did. So it's like a chain effect. If I Life Bloom him and then myself, this guy loses it. If I Life Bloom him and then him and then him and then myself, this guy loses it, right? So let me explain that one more time. If I go 1, 2, 3, 1 loses it. If I go 1, 2, 1, 3, then 2 loses it because I casted Life Bloom on this guy first. So that's something to keep in mind when you're swapping around your Life Blooms. I have lost games to me thinking that, I casted Life Bloom on that guy last time, so I'm gonna put a Life Bloom on myself to make my hot stick on that guy faster, when in reality, the last Life Bloom that I cast was on my teammate. So when I pressed that Life Bloom on myself, the guy taking all the damage lost his Life Bloom, because you can only have 2 out at a time, and I have lost games because I have to put the Life Bloom back up, and the budding leaves has to stack back up. So that's just an important thing to keep in mind for sure. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much everything when it comes to the rotation. I kind of went over all the tools that you have: Adaptive Swarm, Cenarian Ward, extending your hots with Verdant Infusion. It's really not too different. It's really not too different from Shadowlands, to be honest. The 2 major differences are Tree Form and the importance of Life Bloom. And Nourish is also a unique difference, but it's pretty small. But yeah, hopefully that helped you understand a little bit about Druid healing. And we'll go over some games, and I'll go over some specific examples of my healing. So that being said, let's go over positioning. Going back to the concept that I talked about earlier in terms of momentum in these games, positioning is going to be very important as a Druid, and it's going to be very, 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 very defensive. One thing that I have been kind of enjoying, there's some parts about it that I don't love, but essentially your job as a Druid in Dragonflight is to keep your team safe. Damage is so high. The meta is very much about like keeping your damage up and not dying. It's very like PvE, and there's a lot of little micro stuff that goes on in between there, with different kinds of crowd control and all these different little micro plays that you can be doing. But essentially, your job is to be sitting back and keeping your team up. You're not really pushing in. It is very rare to see a Druid successfully playing offensive with Cyclone. There are, outside of maybe the occasional Wild Charge Bash clone, you're pretty much sitting back the entire game. So I went over defensive positioning in my Shadowlands guide, and I would encourage you to go back and look at that if you have any questions about that. But you basically want to keep your team in between you and the enemy team the entire game. You want to be giving your teammates places to kite if they're trying to kite melee. You want to be supporting your melee DPS from a safe position if they're getting aggressive and pushing in, to allow them to keep pushing in, but to not overextend or put your team in a risky situation. But yeah, essentially your positioning is going to be very defensive as a Druid. You want to be as safe as possible the entire game, and just sit back and focus on your healing rotation and keep things rolling. And again, I encourage you to go back and watch that guide about defensive positioning if you have any questions about that. And yeah, I have overall strategy momentum written down, but I feel like I've gone over that a good bit. Your overall strategy is just to keep the momentum in your team's favor, keep things rolling forward. And yeah, I think you'll find yourself winning a lot more games that way. So yeah, let me just, let's jump into a couple games really quick, just to go over some specifics. So this was a game of Rogue Mage Druid versus Rogue Mage Priest. This is me, Chun-Li, and Cubsy, my AWC team. Where's Gordy? And we are fighting Sea-Doo, Trill, and Sam, playing RMP. So this is an interesting matchup because it's a disc priest. It's a mirror, but it's a disc priest versus a restoration druid. I picked this because it kind of shows what I'm talking about in terms of healing rotation, positioning, things like that. The power of your cooldowns. So let's jump into this game here. Let's see what happens. So right now we've got life blooms up on Cubsy and Chun, but they're both falling off. Not the biggest deal. There's not that much damage going out right now. We open with a kidney on the priest. We're attacking the priest. Those growths are coming out, and as you can see, my first globals on both my teammates are Life Bloom. Life Bloom on Chun, Life Bloom on Cubsy. Just getting that budding leaf stacking back up. Rejuvenation, Cenarian Ward, Swift Mend. I'm going to rewind here. So I see the enemy mage uses mass invisibility. Cubsy gets corroded, and I see the Touch of the Magi pop up. See this Touch of the Magi right here? This is going to mean that my mage is going to take a pretty significant amount of damage right now. So my rotation here is Life Bloom, Rejuvenation, Cenarian Ward. I innervate here, just getting that going early. I also Nature's Vigil, just getting that going early as soon as I can, just to add a little bit of damage here. Swift Mend, as you can see, that heals for a lot. I have the Soul of Forest active. I keep my Life Blooms up on Chun-Li, and I put my Soul of Forest on Chun-Li. So this is, again, I've gone over this many, many times in skill cap videos and in my previous guide. As a druid, you're constantly going to be having to deal with people swapping around on your hots. So holding back on committing certain healing over time effects in certain important situations is going to be very important. So the mage used a lot of damage on my mage, but I topped him off. He's got the Cenarian Ward. He's chilling. I know that they're probably going to try to swap to my rogue. So I use the Soul of Forest Rejuvenation on my rogue there. My mage gets kleptomaniaed by the enemy mage. And I'm one important thing that I'm not doing is just automatically overgrowthing. This is something that you're going to come in contact with if you fight any decent arcane mage. They're going to just be tossing that kleptomania out. It's a 30-second cooldown. Your overgrowth is a 1-minute cooldown. So if you overgrowth a kleptomania, you're not going to be able to overgrowth the next one. So you want to try to sit on that overgrowth for the really important kleptomanias when your teammate's going to die. And just instead of responding with overgrowth here, I'm just putting hots back up on my mage, getting things rolling, keeping that, as you can see here, I was correct. They did try to swap over to my rogue. The enemy rogue is not even dotting up my mage. They're attacking my rogue. So putting that Soul of Force Rejuvenation up on him and the Adaptive Swarm was key. Keeping the life plumes rolling on both my teammates. I used Cenarian Ward on my mage and Swiftman on my mage, and I used Adaptive Swarm and Soul of Forest on my rogue. So again, just like splitting up those healing over time effects, making sure that you're keeping the right things up. So now this is Shadow Fiend from the enemy priest. This is PI. They're doing a lot of damage, and Tree Form is a pretty short cooldown. So I'm gonna go in tree. I'm gonna top off my rogue. I'm gonna get us safe, and then that's gonna allow him to push in and get aggressive here. So we use that Tree Form, getting a little bit of momentum. My rogue gets a re-stealth, gets a Garrote out. They broke that sheep, and I messed up on my dispel there, but not a big deal. Keeping him safe. I'm getting those clear casting procs from Tree Form. As you can see, I don't even have Cenarian Ward or Adaptive Swarm up on him, and he's 100% health. He gets kidneyed here. I Swiftman him as soon as I can. I have Nature Swiftness available. I used another regrowth there, and I heal him with a Nourish. So I haven't even used Nature Swiftness yet. I'm in Tree Form. He doesn't have Cenarian Ward, Ironbark, Adaptive Swarm, or anything, and he's still like relatively safe. Just using those clear casting regrowths and getting those Nourishes out is super efficient. As you can see there, I think that was it. That was my life bloom, the life bloom thing I was talking about before. So I thought that the last life bloom that I casted was on Chun-Li, but it was not. It was actually on Cubsy. So when I press life bloom, I target myself, and I put a life bloom up on myself to try and focus on healing Chun-Li because they're not doing any damage to Cubsy. He loses his life bloom. See? The life bloom disappears on Chun-Li because I forgot to swap it. If I pressed life bloom again on Chun-Li and then on myself, it would have been totally fine. But he lost his life bloom, so that is going to cause us to fall behind a little bit here. As you can see, my healing is slowing down a little bit. I do get the Adaptive Swarm up on him, get this clear casting regos, and it ends up being fine, but it is definitely something important to watch out for. And again, you look at my positioning, man. I haven't used Bash. I haven't casted Cyclone. I'm not doing anything offensively. We're fighting a Assassination Rogue and an Arcane Mage with a Disc Priest. The amount of damage that this team has is absurd. All I need to do is focus on my healing, keep my team aggressive, and let them win the game. That's really just it. So again, they swapping over to Cubsy, commit the Sen Ward, get the Swiftman on him again, dispel the Ring of Frost on my rogue. This is Touch the Magi. I used Soul of Forest here on Cubsy because they committed the Touch the Magi. I thought he was going to be the one that taking damage. I also committed Adaptive Swarm here onto him, which was a big mistake. So, I mean, I don't know how much of it was a mistake. It was a mistake. They swapped all their damage over to Chun-Li. Again, this is constantly you're going to be dealing with this. They're going to swap on hots every 5 seconds. I committed too much healing to Cubsy. Almost all of that is going to be overhealing. And now they kidney my rogue. They swap my rogue. I don't have Adaptive Swarm for him. I don't have a Swiftman for him. So I throw out that Ironbark. I throw out that NS. I get that Nourish going, and I save him here. But the bad thing about that is that the rogue did not use Deathmark. So the enemy rogue does have Deathmark still available, and I do not have Ironbark, which is very sketchy. So again, popping those life blooms up on both Chun-Li and Cubsy, keeping those hots rolling. And right here is one of the few times that it is good for me to push in and CC. So I push in, get a Bash clone, and then I instantly leave. This is probably one of the only offensive things I do all game. Hit the mage with a little rake stun there. I thought he was casting that sheep on me. But here, you can see the mage uses counterspell. The rogue is kidneyed. The mage uses counterspell here in a sec. He uses counterspell on my mage, so he can't stop me. Priest has no trinket, so we push in. We get a bash. The rogue doesn't have kidney for 4 seconds, as you can see on my Omni bar down here, 3 seconds. Get that little bash clone while the enemy team is running down. I thought that this sheep cast was on me, so I use Meld and rake him, but it actually wasn't on me. And then I get Garrote and can't spell, but they break the sheep. Not a big deal. So yeah, and then I'm instantly back far away. This is going to be your entire life as a druid for the most part. You push in maybe 1-2 times in a game, get a bash clone, and then you dip, and you just got to focus on your healing. So that was another klepto there. See that? So the enemy mage kleptos my rogue, But that is a total bait. That is a total bait, and do not fall for it. Do not let them get your overgrowth for free like that when there's not even a kidney out. See, Klepto, the rogue didn't even kidney yet. If I overgrowth here, he could just hold kidney, go on the next one, Klepto in 30 seconds. You know, I mean, he would probably just kidney and then, you know, Klepto the next kidney. But essentially, instead of instantly overgrowthing, I just reapply a couple hots, keep him safe. I don't need to overgrowth. I don't need to commit that. Just holding that overgrowth for that right time. So again, sitting back, keeping those life blooms up, you know, using my Soul of Force as much as I can. So this was Touch of the Magi and a lot of damage from the enemy team, and I don't have Iron Bark. So it's this is sketchy. And they also did not use Death Mark. So my rogue does not want to trinket at all. If my rogue trinkets here, they have a kidney in 20 seconds where I have no Iron Bark. He has no trinket. We're completely screwed. So what I do here is I use Tranquility as a way of adding another hot to the situation, trying to keep him up as best I can, and I have a Swiftman in 1 second. I'm spamming that Swiftman as fast as I can. He gets the cloak off out of the kidney, and we're fine. So that was using Tranquility as an extra healing ability when I did not have access to, I didn't have Iron Bark, I didn't have Adaptive Swarm, I didn't have Cenarian Ward, I didn't have Swiftman, I didn't have Nature Swiftness. Pretty much the only thing I could have done was, I could have actually cast a Fast Cast Nourish, thinking back on it here. Fast Cast Nourish would have been good to do as well. But we get the cloak off and we're good. As you can see, I had the 2 stacks of Wild Synthesis up there in the top right. And this is me tracking my weapon enchant here, by the way, the Mastery enchant right there. Keeping the hots up, defensive positioning, chilling, sitting back, kidney in the rogue, casting that casting regrowth on myself, getting that regrowth hot up on everybody because of the regrowth or the rampant growth talent. Keeping us safe, you know, chilling. And yeah, pretty much it. So here's the Death Mark. But the rogue sent Death Mark into Cenarian Ward, Adaptive Swarm, full hots. I have an S. I dispelled the double stack Wind Poison there for a sec. I NS him, and now my rogue's out of the stun, and he's fine. So Nature Swiftness was enough there to deal with the Death Mark, considering the fact that I just had full healing over time effects, and the mage did not have Klepto. And even if he did, I had access to Overgrowth. Key thing here, when you're playing with an Arcane Mage, Mass Invisibility. This ability right here on my Omni CD, if you can see that. This ability right here takes you out of combat, allows you to get a re-stealth. It also allows you to drink. It's huge. If you're playing with an Arcane Mage, getting those drinks on those Mass Invises are absolutely super clutch. There it was. He just used Mass Invis. You see my Prowl button light up right here. You know, I get a re-stealth. I go for a little drink. Mage Food starts ticking instantly. And, you know, I just get a couple ticks, come out with a rejuve. He Kleptos, and I overgrowth that Klepto. If I did not have overgrowth for this Klepto, Chun was absolutely screwed. I mean, he had no cloak. All he had was BM. Sitting on overgrowth through those Kleptos was huge. Absolutely huge. You can see right here, you know, I sit down for a little drink. They still have Death Mark up for a second. And Klepto comes out. He's 60% HP. Thank God I have this overgrowth here. So, you know, that's just, you know, it paying off, sitting on that overgrowth as much as you can, not just using it randomly, using it at really key important times. So here we have like a lot of momentum. So I'm trying to help my mage deal with CS. This is one of the few times I'm doing anything aggressive at all. And yeah, almost gets CC'd, but thankfully we have Counterspell. Kind of pushing in here because the Priest is we have momentum in our favor. Again, with that topic of momentum, it's just huge, man. It's just huge. You know, keeping the momentum in your team's favor. I have Tree Form up. We're just getting active. I should have a Life Bloom on myself right here to be healing him more. And I also wasted Dispel kind of. And yeah, Cenarian Ward. Touch the Magic comes out. Swip in that Cenarian Ward. We have an S. Throw that Adaptive Swarm out. I put a Life Bloom on myself there to make my hot stick faster on Chun. I should have done that earlier, but got it up in time. I dispelled his Wind Poison stacks there just to keep him topped off. Wind Poison stacks up to 5 times, so sometimes it can help you a tiny bit just to get a couple extra hot ticks right there. And I think we do win the game here in a second. But yeah, essentially, I'll just skip forward. I mean, it's pretty much, it's all the same story, and we eventually just rot them down. The Discrease is completely I still have like 11% mana, and we are able to keep the momentum in our favor because of my healing throughput. That really is the name of the game. That was the name of the game in this matchup, is my healing throughput is superior to the Discipline Priest's healing throughput. So if I can keep my team safe, my team is more able to be aggressive, can have better kidney shots, can have better damage, can have better everything. Not having to peel, not having to worry about things like that. So let's just jump into this game here really quick. This is a different comp. This was actually a game versus Gareki, MVQ, and Rudar. I think it was Rudar. This is DH Boomy. So they are focusing on me here. We get Bear Form on the stun, get that Overgrowth up, go Tree Form, Swiftmend, and we still have an S, we still have Tranquility. But all that I've committed so far is Tree Form for Big Meta and Barkskin. So that's completely fine. We're keeping hots rolling on ourselves. There's the hunt. There's Mind Games. We Ironbark ourselves. He keeps trying to juke the hunt. In retrospect, I probably should have just traded Tranquility, but not the biggest deal. This was like pretty much every single cooldown from them. So, just trading out Tree Form and Iron Bark and all that is not the biggest deal. A lot of the Priest trinketed there, so it's just like, we have some good pressure here. We get a Kitty on the Priest. The Hunt comes out on me. I trinket the Hunt, just like trying to trade evenly. This is kind of the end of their cooldowns, and I don't really want to die. Kind of just trading pretty, honestly, in this game, I traded pretty liberally. I was not super concerned with like holding on to a bunch of cooldowns. It's not one of those matchups where, you need to like really, really hold on to your CDs. You can kind of throw things out as long as you're going to, keep the game going. You have other tools to live later. So here my mistake was not keeping Hots up on my mage. It can be difficult as a druid, again, when people are swapping around, hitting different targets and doing a lot of damage to different targets. You're gonna have to. It's gonna be difficult to catch up sometimes in certain situations. So I fell behind a little bit here, but thankfully my mage did have that barrier. Get that life bloom up, first global on him. Top him off. Life bloom up on my rogue here. I'm sure. I went ahead and stunned the boomkin. We got 2 trinkets there. Good offensively, just like seeing that opportunity to stun something. Keeping those life blooms rolling, getting those rejuves going. Again, it's pretty simple, man. It's once you start getting the hang of it, it's pretty straightforward. Cenarian Ward, Adaptive Swarm, Swiftmend, same stuff as Shadowlands, man. It's pretty much the same stuff with just like a little bit of extra importance on Life Bloom. You have 2 Life Blooms, which is a little different, and that Nourish and that True Form. So yeah, again, just sitting back, root the DH. He misses AoE stun there because of that root, which was really nice. I'll just rewind so you can see that. Cast that Clue Casting Regrowth on my mage. Get that root, and he uses AoE stun there, and did not get it because of the root, which was good. Cast that Clear Casting Regrowth out on myself. Just getting those stacks rolling. I let my life bloom fall here on my rogue, which is not the best, but I am using that time to get a rate clone on the DH, which is good. Priest MDs it, which means he's ooming really quickly. You can look at the Priest mana, he's just ooming really, really quickly, so it's like, this is just the name of the game in so many of these matchups, man. It's just like war of attrition. As a druid right now, you're not like a win games fast type of class. I mean, you can be that way when you're playing with maybe like a Windwalker. Windwalker Arcane Mage, you can win extremely quickly if you have like good rake stuns and like, good swapping around and like just like one-shotting everybody. Hit him with that one shot. You can kind of play that way, but for the most part, man, as a druid, you're gonna want to play safe. Your strength is in elongating the game. Your strength is in your healing throughput. So you just want to make that game go as long as possible. Try to either the enemy healer or get to a point where they just can't heal through your damage. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, went over a couple games, did talents, macros, gearing, rotation, positioning, kind of the overall feel of Dragonflight for Druid. And yeah, I hope that this video was helpful in some ways for you guys. And yeah, I just want to finish on the point, I get a lot of people asking me like, how do I improve? How do I get better? How do I do this? How do I do that? Really, man, just like, even if it's not Druid, play the class that is fun for you to play. Play the thing that you enjoy the fantasy of it, you enjoy the rotation of it, you enjoy the way it works. And if you find something that you like and, it's like, it's fun for you, stick with that class, let that be your main class, and just grind that shit. Just play, practice as much as you can, and don't get discouraged with the, loss or rating loss or whatever, man. Just find that thing that you like to do and just go for it. That honestly is the best and only advice that I can give to anybody trying to improve at anything, but really especially in WoW. It's just like, just play as much as you can, and keep your chin up and keep grinding. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope that this was educational in some way, and yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, morning, and I'll see you next time. See you later.